Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Mike Lindell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Congress is now scrambling to come up with Plan B to avoid a partial government shutdown after some GOP members of the U.S. House pulled their support of this brokered deal. Footnote here, only after President-elect Donald Trump expressed his opposition to the plan. We have all the details for you. Which leads me to a question for you today. Should Congress be allowed to vote to give themselves a pay raise? That was part of the massive spending bill that's now being reconsidered. There's a resurgence of conservatism on college campuses, and who seems to be fueling this interest in college Republicans? I have the answer for you. South Carolina Representative John McCravy joins us today to talk about a new session of South Carolina State Legislature and what we might expect in 2025. We have a lot to cover today. Let's get started.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but you know they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
The latest drama out of Washington, D.C. is as predictable as it is infuriating. How many times have we been down this path? House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is out there again, blaming House Republicans for the latest gridlock over a government funding deal. And once again, the threat of a government shutdown is being waved in front of us. Here's what happened yesterday. The House GOP was forced to search for a backup plan after a supposedly bipartisan deal to avoid a partial government shutdown, which would occur on Friday night, was torpedoed by conservative opposition. And of course, Mr. Jeffries wasted no time pointing the finger at Republicans, claiming they're out to hurt everyday Americans.
Good evening, everyone. House Republicans, House Democrats, Senate Republicans, and Senate Democrats reached a bipartisan agreement to fund the government, keep it open, and meet the needs of the American people. We reached a bipartisan agreement to provide disaster assistance to everyday Americans whose lives have been upended and turned upside down as a result of hurricanes, tornadoes, wildfires, floods, and other types of extreme weather events. We reached a bipartisan agreement to meet the needs of the American people and provide assistance to farmers, families, children, seniors, veterans, men and women in uniform, and working class Americans. House Republicans have now unilaterally decided to break a bipartisan agreement that they made. House Republicans have been ordered to shut down the government and hurt everyday Americans all across this country. House Republicans will now own any harm that is visited upon the American people that results from a government shutdown or worse. An agreement is an agreement. It was bipartisan, and there was nothing more to say.
Are you scared? Does Hakeem Jeffries scare you, talking about a shutdown? Let's get real here for a minute. This bipartisan agreement that he references, it's nothing but a 1,547-page monstrosity filled with pork, filled with waste, and a bunch of leftist goodies that have nothing to do with keeping the government running. Even Elon Musk, who's now set to co-chair the newly established Department of Government Efficiency under President-elect Trump, he called it out on X. He slammed the bill as being full of pork and accused Jeffries of thinking the public is dumb. And he's right, isn't he? We're not dumb, and we're sick of these bloated bills. We understand that at some point you've got to stop spending money, right? Musk didn't stop there. He wrote, "The voice of the people was heard. This was a good day for America." And he's right. Again, this isn't about shutting down the government. It's about standing up to the reckless spending and political games that are driving our country deeper into debt, and now's the time to start. Musk wasn't the only one calling it out, though. President-elect Trump weighed in, calling the bill ridiculous and extraordinarily expensive. Trump warned about the debt ceiling guillotine that's coming up next June, calling it a nasty trap set by the radical left Democrats. The bill, again, it's not just about funding the government. It's about setting up another political showdown to embarrass Republicans and to embarrass Donald Trump down the road next summer. And Trump made it clear, any Republican who supports this kind of nonsense should be primaried in 2 years. We need Republicans who are willing to fight for fiscal sanity, not to cave to the big spending swamp creatures. So let's talk some numbers here. The national debt has reached a staggering $36.2 trillion, and it is climbing fast every day. The budget deficit for the last fiscal year was $1.83 trillion, the third largest in American history. And what are these lawmakers doing? They're pushing a bill that includes $100 billion in disaster aid, money for ethanol fuel, and even a pay raise for Congress. Yep, that wasn't a misquote. A pay raise for Congress. Can you believe that? They want to raise while the rest of America struggles to make ends meet. More on that pay raise in just a minute. Look, this is political malpractice. We need to get our fiscal house in order, and that means saying no to these massive spending bills that do nothing but pile more debt onto future generations. The Democrats want to cry that this is hurting the American people, that this is withholding needing emergency relief for people in areas like Western North Carolina, where people are still trying to dig their way out from the devastation of Hurricane Helene. And we need to help those people. Yes, we do. But Congress can do both. They can put together a spending bill that will meet the immediate needs, keeping the government running, and not pile things on that are not necessary now. The Democrats do this every time. We get down to the wire. I mean, think about this. If something isn't done by Friday, the government will have a partial shutdown. Now, that doesn't really mean a lot. We've seen that before. All essential services will continue. But this is the way the Democrats do this, and it's like they push it to the ledge. Now, they knew this was coming. So why are they getting to Wednesday before the Friday deadline before they really start pushing this out there? Why haven't they been working on this for weeks now? House Republicans who are standing their ground are right to stand their ground. We need a clean bill that funds essential services, not one that's loaded with waste and political favors. It's time for Congress to remember that they work for us. We pay their salaries. Now, again, the thing that's a little bit troubling about this, and I don't know all the behind-the-scenes maneuvering, but it kind of appeared as if this was moving forward until Elon Musk and Donald Trump started speaking up. Trump sent this letter yesterday. The most foolish and inept thing ever done by congressional Republicans was allowing our country to hit the debt ceiling in 2025. It was a mistake, and now something must be addressed. Meanwhile, Congress is considering a spending bill that would give sweetheart provisions for government censors and for Liz Cheney. The bill would make it easier to hide the records of the corrupt January 6th committee, which accomplished nothing for the American people and hid security failures that happened that day. This bill would also give Congress a pay increase while many Americans are struggling this Christmas. He went on to write, increasing the debt ceiling is not great, but we'd rather do it on Biden's watch. If Democrats won't cooperate on the debt ceiling now, what makes anyone think they would do it next June during our administration? Let's have this debate now, and we should pass a streamlined spending bill that doesn't give Chuck Schumer and the Democrats everything they want. And he wrapped things up by saying Republicans want to support our farmers, pay for disaster relief, and set our country up for success in 2025. Trump writes, the only way to do that is with a temporary funding bill without Democrat giveaways in all caps, combined with an increase in debt ceiling. Anything else is a betrayal of our country. And that's when things kind of started falling apart. That's when it appeared that they had the Democrats and Republicans' attention. But it took Trump and it took Musk and some of these conservative members, the House Freedom Caucus, before we got to that point. So let me ask you a couple questions here. First off, do you care if the government shuts down, if we have a partial shutdown? Now, granted, this is probably not the ideal time to do that right before Christmas, but maybe it is a good time because most of those workers that they're worried about not being able to pay, they'll be off for Christmas anyway. So maybe this is the best time to have a government shutdown while this is being worked out. And again, when they say government shutdown, the essential services will not be interrupted. We're not going to have a problem with firefighters and police and all that kind of stuff, things that we need. It would just be the non-essential workers. Some of those people who claim they're working from home now and really aren't working anyway. They just wouldn't get paid for a while. Although the way the government works, they'd get back pay when they fire things up again. You tell me. Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. If you've been putting off a visit to PhD Weight Loss, now's your time because it comes with an amazing free gift. Joey Hudson here. During December, the founder of PhD Weight Loss, Dr. Ashley Lucas, is giving the first 100 people to sign up for a consultation a free weight loss and energy supplement bundle. What a great gift. Do what I did. Take control now before heading into the indulgent holiday season. Get a grasp and avoid the holiday pounds. I dropped over 30 pounds and I'm not worried about parties and overeating because my PhD coach taught me coping mechanisms to help me enjoy holiday events without gaining the weight. Best of all, I never took a weight loss drug. I'm not dependent on a prescription. And I was never hungry. PhD Weight Loss is not about depriving yourself. Lose the awful belly fat, gain energy, and avoid weight-related health issues. You will feel so amazing about yourself and truly enjoy the holiday season. PhD Weight Loss. Ask about the free gift when you book your consultation. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or go to myphdweightloss.com. Let's continue our discussion on this massive spending bill that the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate find themselves at an impasse on. A dumpster fire is how some members of the House GOP describe the massive spending bill. Let's hear from a few.
It's a total dumpster fire. I think it's garbage. I think that it's shameful that people that celebrate Doge coming in, and yet we're going to vote for another $1 billion to be added to the deficit. And so it's ironic.
It's opposite of what the Doge Commission is trying to do. So am I voting for it? No, I'm not.
We're just fundamentally unserious about spending. And as long as you got a blank check, you can't shrink government. If you can't shrink government, you can't live free.
That was South Carolina Representative Ralph Norman and Representative Chip Roy from Texas expressing their disappointment in the spending bill. House GOP leaders are now scrambling for a backup plan after their initial bipartisan deal to avoid a partial government shutdown was destroyed by literally a tidal wave of opposition from conservatives. The bill was supposed to be a short-term extension. It would keep the government funded through March 14th of 2025. Sounds kind of straightforward, doesn't it? But, of course, it's anything but. Let's review again what was in the bill. $100 billion in disaster aid. Now, that's needed. They kind of put that in there as the carrot. It also included $10 billion in economic relief for farmers. That's needed too. Healthcare reform measures and even funding to revitalize Washington, D.C.'s RFK Stadium. Now, healthcare reform, that's probably a bigger discussion at another time. And certainly revitalizing D.C.'s RFK Stadium is certainly not something that's needed right now. In other words, this bill is loaded with pork and unrelated goodies that have no business being in a spending bill at this point. Conservatives in the House and the Senate, along with President-elect Trump and Elon Musk, they've had enough of this nonsense. Elon Musk took to X and called out any lawmakers who supported the bill, saying, quote, "Any member of the House or Senate who votes for this outrageous spending bill deserves to be voted out in 2 years." He's not wrong, is he? House Majority Leader Steve Scalise confirmed that the original deal is dead. He said there's still a lot of negotiations and conversations going on, but there's no new agreement. Now, House Speaker Mike Johnson went on Fox News and defended the deal, saying that Republicans only control 1/2 of 1/3 of the federal government, and that's not going to cut it for conservatives to demand fiscal responsibility. He tried to make the argument that let's go ahead and pass this now, and then when Republicans get their majority in January and next year, they'll do something about it. But I say, hey, Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, now's the time to start. Why kick this can down the road? Why not stand up and stare the Democrats down? Representative Anna Paulina Luna and other GOP conservatives made it clear there'll be a new continuing resolution soon, maybe as early as today. But the clock's ticking. The deadline to avoid the shutdown, of course, is Friday, and that's what the Democrats like. That's what they like to do. They like to push it up to the very edge. So there's not time to do anything. So there's not time to even read the bill. That's the Nancy Pelosi way of doing this. How many times did we hear Nancy Pelosi do this same thing to get trillion-dollar spending bills passed? Now, here's the deal. It's time for Republicans to stand strong. The American people are sick and tired of these massive spending bills that do nothing but pile more debt onto our kids, our grandkids. Elon Musk is right. If this means a partial government shutdown to force the issue, maybe we have to have a shutdown. Musk said shutting down the government, which doesn't really shut down critical functions, is infinitely better than passing a horrible bill. Again, I ask you, are you concerned about government shutting down for Christmas? Will the GOP cave? And will they finally say no to the swamp's spending addiction? Because it's an addiction. Some of these folks who've been up there for decades, all they know how to do is spend our money. I think President-elect Trump, I think Elon Musk, and others conservatives in the House know this is the time to stand up. Don't wait till next year. Start now. But back to the other question. Should members of Congress get a pay raise? Because that's part of this bill. Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois, he kind of locked horns with a CNN reporter yesterday out in the hallway of the Senate office building after he learned the good news. What was the good news? That he was about to get a pay raise. The proposed spending bill will give lawmakers their first pay raise since 2009, something which has received mixed reactions on Capitol Hill. Durbin was asked about the congressional pay raise by CNN host Manu Raju, who asked, do you guys deserve a pay raise? Listen to the exchange.
Caught up with Senate Majority Whip Dick Durbin about this issue. I asked him if it was appropriate for lawmakers to give themselves a raise. Members are giving themselves a pay raise. Do you guys deserve a pay raise?
Well, that's news to me. It's good news. You know, what has it been, 10 years or 14 years and no COLA, no change at all? I think it's about time something's done.
You support giving yourselves a pay raise?
How would I not know about a pay raise?
But I mean, people look at the performance of Congress and say, why should we give them more money?
What about the media? Think about that for a second.
And we're not paid by public money.
I know you're not, but I mean, half of your listeners are not there anymore. You're still getting the same paycheck? What's going on?
Well,
all right, so let's kind of break that down in two different sections there. First, what's worse, the fact that they're giving themselves a raise or that Dick Durbin pretended not to know anything about it? Do you believe him? Do you believe he really didn't know that pay raises were in this bill? If he didn't know that, shame on him. A senior member of the U.S. Senate didn't know he was expected to vote on a spending package that included a raise for himself? Give me a break. I'm not buying that one. But give him credit. Give Durbin credit that he turned the tables on the CNN reporter. Durbin, you heard him firing back at the CNN reporter, asking him how he and his colleagues in the media get paid the same when their ratings are down. It's a valid question, isn't it? CNN, they have tanked. But I guarantee you this reporter's probably being paid the same thing, if not more. The exchange was discussed by a CNN panel where they defended their colleague, Raju. A CNN congressional correspondent, Lauren Fox, said, I thought it was so interesting this morning. Dick Durbin did not know this was in the bill when Manu was asking him about it this morning, and he was arguing that it was pleasant information for him because it's been a decade since they've had a raise. She said, and he's one of those who is a normal person when it comes to his bank account, according to Dana Bash, meaning that that Dick Durbin is not considered one of the millionaires in the U.S. Senate. According to a recent Gallup poll, the news media is the least trusted group among 10 U.S. civic and political institutions, and the U.S. Congress only slightly behind at 34%. Liberal news networks, they've taken a hit since the November election. MSNBC, for example, averaged 807,000 total viewers. CNN managed 488,000. During prime time, MSNBC averaged 1.7 million viewers from 8 to 11 p.m. CNN only had 700,000. In a quick comparison, in the busy news cycle of December, CNN's audience was smaller than TNT, the Food Network, Hallmark Mystery, TLC, TBS History, and the list goes on. Folks, CNN, they're on their last leg. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. Joining us today on the guest line, Representative John McCravy, representing the 13th District from Greenwood County in the South Carolina House of Representatives. How are you, sir? Good to talk to you.
I'm doing great today, Joey. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. Boy, you have been busy recently. I try to keep up with you. Recently speaking to the Republican women of Greenwood County, you recently spoke to the Greenwood County GOP. Of course, congratulations on becoming the chairman of the National Association of Christian Lawmakers. Now, that's a big deal. Tell us about this great organization.
Well, Joey, it is. I'm very humbled to be and honored to be that, appointed to that. And, it's the National Association of Christian Lawmakers started right at 5 years ago. And, our mission is to look at laws from a biblical worldview. In this national organization, we pass model legislation, discuss model legislation that we can then take back to our states and hopefully pass. Some of those, just to give you some examples of some model legislation that has been discussed and debated and passed in the National Association, the Heartbeat Bill way back, the Fairness in Women's Sports Act, Freedom to Worship, which all these we've passed in South Carolina. Medical Ethics Defense Act, we've passed that. There's one we haven't passed, which is transparency in education, but we've been working hard on that. And so I hope that the Senate will see fit to pass a good bill with teeth in it this year to give us some transparency.
Yeah.
So parents can see what their children are being taught in public school.
Yeah. Yeah, that's important. Looks like you had a great meeting in Arizona, too, meeting Jack Phillips, the baker from Colorado. Of course, my Salem media colleague, Charlie Kirk. What a great guy there.
Wow, our cake baker in Colorado, what a great guy he was to talk to him. He's just a plain old guy like you and me,
yep.
Joey. I was impressed with him. He went through 12 years of litigation, and he described that. He said he got a call the other day that their last appeal to the state Supreme Court of Colorado was dismissed. So finally, for the first time in 12 or 13 years, he's not in court.
Good.
And all of this just because he didn't want to decorate a cake for a gay wedding.
Yeah.
And that was his conscientious objection. He just said, look, I'll give you can buy a cake that's already made. I'll sell you one. Here. I just don't want to do a custom decorating cake for that. So that's what he paid. He paid the price of 12 or 13 years in litigation for that.
Yeah.
But fortunately, Alliance Defending Freedom came behind him and represented him after a year or two, and they really turned it around. and were successful defending him on those cases.
Yeah, and what a great group there, ADF, and they've been a partner of ours for many, many years. I actually had a chance to interview Jack Phillips a couple of years ago as well, along with Alliance for Defending Freedom, but they're just doing great work around the country.
They really are. They help us in the legislature too. If I need a bill looked at carefully by attorneys that have actually litigated the issue, like Save Women's Sports, for instance, they can critique the bill legally and make sure that it's tight. And that's important to me. Anytime I file a bill or the Family Caucus files a bill, I want it to be tight. So yes, they've been a great resource for us and nationally too.
Yeah. Speaking of,
wow, go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of saving women's sports, did you happen to see the NCAA president, Charlie Baker? He was testifying in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee in Washington yesterday, and some of his answers were just absurd. I mean, he basically said, look, if women don't like men coming into their locker room, they just need to look for other accommodations.
I heard that outrageous testimony. And I really like what Senator Kennedy said. And,
yes.
You quoted that on your last podcast I listened to this morning. But,
yes.
Go online and get a spine.
Yes. You can always count on John Kennedy to come through, can't you?
Yes, you can. He's my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, and Charlie Kirk. I had never met Charlie Kirk in any way, and frankly, I've listened to a few of his podcasts in the past, but not very much. That guy is so impressive.
Yeah.
I'm just here to tell you.
Yeah.
He just tells the truth, and that's the thing. I mean, you just don't hear that much. You don't hear that many people who will just tell it like it is.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe that's what makes him popular. People say, well, he's telling the truth.
Yeah. Well, he's been given credit in a lot of areas for helping back in November, the big wins that we had in November. Charlie's just amazing. His whole organization is something. I had the opportunity back in the summer to go up to Detroit. He had his mid-year conference up there. And I got to tell you, Representative McCravy, it is just refreshing and encouraging to be in a room with about 10,000 young people who are fired up about conservatism.
Yes. It always encourages me when young people approach me and say, they're conservative and Republican, and it just makes me feel better about our country, about the way we're headed.
Yep.
And, Donald Trump did much better with the young people this time than ever before. So hopefully we're seeing, I think they're seeing the results of bad policy. They've seen COVID and some of the bad policies we had in the Biden administration. They've seen their costs of everything go up. To a young person without much money, when stuff goes up and doubles in price and gas goes up, it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So I think hopefully their eyes have been open to what the leftist policies will do to our economy and our way of life.
Yep. On our guest line today, Representative John McCravy, I got an email last night. Speaking of Charlie Kirk, his annual conference, the big one, is this weekend in Phoenix. And guess who his keynote speaker is going to be?
Who is that?
One Donald J. Trump. They announced it last night that Trump was going to be joining them in Phoenix this weekend.
Oh, man. In some ways, I wish I'd just stayed there.
Yeah, well, I think Donald Trump recognizes the role that Charlie played in turning out a lot of those young people in November. And, of course, Trump has always been supportive of what Charlie does. But just a great organization. And, again, it's just so nice to see that there are young people out there who are interested in the future of our country. Let's take a minute and talk about the upcoming legislative session. Of course, you're going to have a break here for Christmas, but then you're going to go back to work in January. Talk with us about the session and maybe some of the highlights that you're expecting.
Well, we are going back, Joey, and there's a lot to do. We've got numerous priorities for the Family Caucus, the Republican Caucus, and we'll see where that goes. I know that one big issue is taxes. I think we're looking at all kind of ways to cut taxes again in our state. We've been sticking with the idea of reducing income taxes every year, but I'd like to see some property taxes go away.
Yep.
One of the bills I've introduced is to try to eliminate, for the most part, property taxes for people over 65. You buy your house, you pay on it all your life, and you finally pay it off when you're around 60-something years old, and then you got to still pay taxes on it, and onerous property taxes. You get a little bit of a break, but not much. And, why should you have to pay, if you spent all your life paying for that house, why should you then have to continue to pay the government for it? You really don't even own your house. The government owns it.
Yep.
So we've got, I want to get away from that. And Joey, I look, and the first people that will argue with that are local government. They'll say, well, we rely on that income for our expenses and all that. And there's some legitimacy to that. But you know what? We could replace it with a statewide sales tax. How much of a penny do you think it would take to make up for all the property tax for people over 65? I've asked that question, and some people have said, "What would you think, Joey?"
I have no clue. Do you know? Do we know what that would be?
I know.
Well, tell us.
I do know. It's 0.32 cents.
Wow.
So less than a third of a cent would do away with all property tax for people over 65.
Wow.
I mean, that's just amazing to me. And I think it's just common sense, CENT, pun intended. It's just common sense to do away with property tax for people over 65.
Yeah.
So that's one of my pet peeves. I'm going to try to sell in the legislature this year. We've got a lot of different bills. Of course, I will be putting forth the Human Life Protection Act. I know that the topic of abortion for some people is not a popular topic right now, but I still see lives being lost in our state. My guess is we'll still have 3,000 abortions for birth control in our state, even with the heartbeat bill.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see us save those lives and not participate in this barbaric practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
so I'll be promoting that. As always, I want to save life, and our Human Life Protection Act failed twice in the Senate, by one vote once, by two votes another time. The Senate has changed. We got the three sisters who are no longer there, that were Republican women voting that were not pro-life and voted against pro-life efforts, voted against the heartbeat bill. They're gone. The voters came in and replaced them in their primaries. We also have 4 new Republican senators that flip seats.
Yeah.
So my take on it is we have a chance to finally go forward and pass the bill that's right for South Carolina, and it won't be obstructed. So I'm very hopeful for that this coming session. I can't tell you when it'll come up or all, but I have faith that between the Lord and a lot of hard work, we're going to be able to get that bill up again.
Yeah. Well, and I applaud your efforts, and I thank you for continuing that fight, because you're right. It's a fight that not everyone feels that we need to be involved in right now, but I applaud what you've done over the years for that, and will continue to do. Representative John McCravy, it's always a pleasure, and we'll obviously, I'll be depending on you to be our eyes and ears in Columbia during the session next year. So look forward to talking with you many times in the coming months.
Well, thank you, sir, and it's an honor to talk with you, and thank you for what you do you really get out the truth here in South Carolina for sure.
Yep. Well,
and we appreciate that. And I know you, of course, you fill in for Mike Gallagher a lot too.
I'll be filling in for him the rest of this week and around Christmas and New Year's. Mike is yesterday actually was his last day, so I'll be sitting in for the rest of the year over on the Mike Gallagher show. So, and that's always fun to do for sure. So, Representative McCravy,
I was just going to say, no offense to Mike, but I like to listen to you as much or more than anybody.
Well, we'll keep that between us. Merry Christmas to you.
All right. See you, Joey. Thank you.
Have you finished with your Christmas shopping yet? Well, I have some good news for you. MyPillow is glad to announce that their Christmas extravaganza is continuing. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98 when you use promo code Joey. And they're not going to last very long at this price. The famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. They're regularly priced at $119.98. Now, with promo code Joey, you can get them for $59.98. And the 6-piece towel set, these towels, you've heard me talk about them. They're very soft, but yet they are absorbent. Most times, you're not going to get a towel this absorbent. When you use promo code Joey, when you go to MyPillow.com or call 800-893-4059, you're going to get them for just $29.98 with promo code Joey. $29.98 for a 6-piece towel set. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. Go to MyPillow.com or call 800-893-4059. Use promo code Joey to get the very best deal on every single item, and Merry Christmas to you. On the text line, a lot of text today. Let me try to get as many as I can in here. Texter, how does the carbon footprint mob feel about the fat positivity mob? This is in reference to my story yesterday about San Francisco hiring this DEI person to defend the overweight people. Texter, fat positivity is just another name for health shaming. Texter, Joey, with this whole DEI stuff going on, I'm thinking this must have been going on for a long time because throughout my entire life, there's always been that one guy that they've hired that always knew everything but lacked all logic, and they always made him a supervisor. I guess you have to always hire one idiot to run the whole group. I guess so, yeah. Roger's commenting on the NCAA story saying it's a disgrace and that he will never watch another NCAA game again. Texter, Derek Chauvin was guilty before the trial began. New evidence coming out recently. Texter, Obamacare destroyed our traditional healthcare system, and it was young people who demanded Obamacare. I have no sympathy for them. Texter, Luigi was a rich kid whose family owned a group of nursing homes, which is under investigation for abuse. Texter, 2016 election, the Republicans ran on appeal and replaced Obamacare. They had control of the Senate and the House and the presidency. They did nothing. Do not forget that Obamacare is still in place. You are so right. Texter, Luigi is a cold-blooded murderer and should be fairly tried and firmly convicted if and when he's guilty. Tony writes, Joey, why bother investigating before Trump gets in office? A pardon is definitely in the works for Liz Cheney now. All guilty parties will be pardoned. Texter, hey, Joey, it's Jennifer. Not MIA, just ripping and running. 'Tis the season, catching you on the fly, still depending upon you for just the truth. Well, thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. Said, I love the library story. I'll bet if I went through the stuff that I have collected over the years, I might find an overdue library book, too. Still riding high on the Trump train and so hopeful, so encouraged by the plans that the new administration has in store for us. As someone we all used to know might put it, unburdened by what has been. Texter, hey, this is Dan from Greenville. Got a question about the NCAA. Could you research and tell us who in the world appoints these people at the NCAA and the leadership there, and then the management that's there as well? So who does that and who appoints these stupid idiots? And that's being nice. Well, Dan, they're selected by the conference. I mean, there's a whole system, but each conference, of course, has their commissioner who are chosen by member schools in the conference, and then those commissioners choose the overall NCAA leadership. It's a big position, a lot of money involved. These commissioners, they fly around in jets, make a lot of money, wear expensive suits. It's a great job if you can get it. Texter, good day, Joey. If any South Carolina representative votes for this stopgap spending bill, they must be not voted out, but run out of office. They're about to pass a 40% pay increase for themselves. Stop these CR bills. Republican congressmen must show some backbone. If it's not a good bill, shut down the government. We won because the American people said enough is enough. Stop spending like a drunken sailor. It's not your money, it's ours. If we're to continue in power in Washington, we must be conservative, not just talk about it. And here I thought after the election my blood pressure would go down. You're right. God is in control. Look, we're going to make it through this. And look, you have to be heard. This is the time that you call and you email your representative and let them know to stand strong. If it means a partial shutdown, so be it. Hey, here's something you're not going to hear in the mainstream media. Donald Trump's reelection and his son Barron's enrollment in NYU are lighting a fire under college Republican clubs across the country. Sources are telling the New York Post that membership numbers are soaring and young conservatives are standing proud. At NYU, students are proudly wearing their MAGA hats. They wear them around campus. They're interested in the Republican club. Reports are that the memberships have doubled. Kaya Walker is the president of NYU's College Republican Club. She says that Barron Trump's presence at the Stern School of Business has sparked curiosity, and that people are asking, is Barron in the club? Well, she says he's not a member yet, but Walker says that they'd love to have him, but that his father's resurgence has led to conservatives literally coming out of the woodwork on college campuses. It's like they're no longer afraid to step out there. Walker, who's been in the club since she was a freshman, says that attendance at their meetings has jumped to more than doubling at times. The reelection of Trump has made young conservatives more optimistic, and they're more motivated to get involved and to show up, even on liberal campuses like NYU. And it's not just in New York City. College Republican chapters nationwide are reporting similar trends. At Penn State, membership has doubled to 200 students. Now, granted, 200 students on a campus the size of Penn State, still, if it was 100 before and it's 200 now, that's going in the right direction. Vice President Tristan Kilgore at Penn State says that young voters remember the pandemic lockdowns and aren't supporting the people who kept them away from their friends and their school. At the University of Michigan, Alexander Richmond says that their numbers are up by a third. His club, the oldest of its kind, now has 445 students signed up. Richmond says freshman conservatives who used to stay in the shadows are now showing up in record-breaking numbers because they're proud. They understand what has to happen in our country, and they're buying in once again. Over at UNC, Matthew Trott reports that their club grew from 120 to 250 members in just 2 months before the election. At Babson College, membership has doubled. Nico Cady, the club's president, says Trump's popularity is undeniable, and the reaction to the election was pure jubilation. And it's not just college Republicans. Look at my friend and colleague Charlie Kirk and his Turning Point USA. Talk about a revival of conservatism among young people. This weekend in Phoenix, Arizona, there'll be thousands of young people from all around the country attending this conference to develop their leadership skills, to enhance their activism techniques, to receive training on working on campaigns, running for office, connecting with resources and opportunities that this Turning Point USA conference and their partner organizations offer these young people. And boy, do they have a lineup of speakers. And this kind of tells you just how seriously Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA is taken. Here's a sample of some of the speakers that these young people will hear over the weekend. And the conference starts today, by the way. Tucker Carlson is there. Ben Shapiro, Steve Bannon, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, Riley Gaines, Brandon Tatum, Scott Presler. Scott Presler is a young man who registered so many people up in Pennsylvania. So many that he's been given partial credit for helping win Pennsylvania. House Speaker Mike Johnson will be there. Senator Ted Cruz will be there. Representative Byron Donalds will be there, and many other members of the U.S. House and U.S. Senate. They're there to speak to these young people. Dr. Ben Carson, Donald Trump Jr. will be there, and guess who their keynote speaker will be? President-elect Donald J. Trump himself will be the keynote speaker this weekend. This is just a sample of the speakers who will spend the weekend in Phoenix speaking to this young group of people. Why? Because they recognize how important they are. Not just our future leaders, but they are a part of the process now. They played a big part in getting Donald Trump reelected in November, not to mention a majority in the U.S. Senate and a better majority in the U.S. House. Do you find this as encouraging as I do? That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.